I've spoken here already about Mr. Patterson's time in office. He's a cricket man. He loves the cricket analogies. So his time at the wicket. Last week at the summit, he held court as he sought to set the record straight, defending his time in office. And if you weren't here, you would have been led to believe that one of the most successful premierships in Jamaica's political history was underplayed, was overlooked, was vilified in some respects by members of the media, by people who comment today on public affairs. And you'd be left wondering, how come this great man and his premiership were not given the regard, certainly, which he gave to it in that speech at the summit? The great thing is, I'm speaking largely to people who were here and who know that what Mr. Percival said to us last week, in the words of, well, one of the favorite words of one of the men who served his cabinet, Keith Desmond Knight, what we heard at the summit was balderdash. The facts don't support the narrative that Mr. Patterson spun. And the thing with Mr. Patterson's premiership is that, you know, I like to quote my favorite rapper in these instances, you know, men lie, women lie, numbers don't. Even though men and women lie with numbers. And what he sought to communicate is vastly different from the reality of those 14 years. Now, there's so much to go into where Patterson and his 14 years are concerned, or were concerned. Mr. Percival's brand of leadership. In many respects, there are good things to take from it. The way he handled certain ministers. In my view, the highlight of Mr. Percival's 14 years was the liberalization of the telecom sector by one Philip Paulwell. And those close to the action say, well, that was more Paulwell's doing than Mr. Percival. So you should give Paulwell all the credit. Acknowledge that Mr. Percival was the Prime Minister at the time, but it really was Paulwell's work. And we all know that Philip Paulwell wrung every bit of goodwill out of that liberalization of the telecom sector towel, to the extent that for the many other things that he got up to, there was barely enough of the goodwill left to tide him over. Mr. Percival said, look, when the bad times came, it's youthful exuberance. That was him being grateful to what Paulwell had done for his administration. But that was a highlight for me. And that was hugely significant, is hugely significant in the history. But it's not Mr. Percival's work. It's Philip Paulwell's work. I'll tell you what Mr. Percival's work really is. Before that, he said something in 2003 that I think is at the heart of the problem Mr. Percival is facing at this time. And as I listened to him some weeks ago talking about the country on his watch and how good it was and the backlash that he received, sufficient for them to organize another function for him to set the record straight, I said to myself, you are right in believing what you believed about the problem Mr. Percival has. And here's the problem. 2003, September, the PNP's 65th annual conference. Mr. Percival made a speech, parts of it which will go down in the history of the politics in this country. And in that speech was transmitted the real problem Mr. Percival had then and still has now. Here's what he said. Every leader has a different style, and my style is this style, he told conference in 2003. I am a humble man, and I will always be to my dying day. Blood runs through my veins like everybody else's, but I know that I have never got the respect where respect is due for the things that I have done. He said, I have built more highways than anybody else. I have done more to reduce poverty than everybody else. More people have running water. More people stop use kerosene. More people have electricity. More people have telephone. And more men have gal than at any time else, said our Prime Minister in 2003. So part of his legacy, as he wound down his premiership, was that under his leadership, more men in Jamaica have gal. Yeah? That didn't go down well at the time. It is funny now rather than being crass. But that was Mr. Percival speaking. It wasn't the gal aspect. Well, we were caught up in that at the time. I remember the country was. But the more significant point Mr. Percival was making was that he didn't feel as if he had the respect he certainly thinks he deserves. And that's the problem. Mr. Percival has long been jealous of the adoration and adulation that the comrades give to Joshua. The love of Michael Manley and for Michael Manley and justified Michael Manley is one of the great Jamaicans. Yes, I never said perfect. Great Jamaicans, there is no doubt about that. Percival James Patterson wants to be like that. In fact, if you listen to the PNP bigwigs speak, and especially during campaign time when they're doing their set piece presentations, it's almost obligatory to have a quote or three from Joshua in your speech. It's not complete without it. Nobody quotes PJ Patterson. Nobody quotes PJ Patterson. The comrades don't. And so I find it curious that the respect that not even the comrades have for you, Mr. Percival, you want the Jamaican public to then accord you that. On what basis, I don't know. Your tenure, your premiership was such that you are barely mentioned. Mrs. Simpson Miller gets adoration and adulation. She gets copious amounts of it. You, on the other hand, longest serving, won more elections than anybody else, and done all the great things you say you did, and yet still you fall short of the adulation and adoration measures. Which is why it's so curious that a PNP hierarchy that quite rightly avoids mentioning the Patterson years, avoids mentioning what Mr. Percival did at the wicket, now brings him back to boost its election campaign. So, apart from feeling unappreciated and being unappreciated within the walls of his own party, Mr. Percival is now appealing to Jamaica to give him the love that not even comrades are giving him. I'll tell you how we remember you, Mr. Percival. And there are so many numbers to use. You will be remembered as the Prime Minister who heaped more debt on the back of every Jamaican man, woman and child than every Prime Minister before you and every Prime Minister since. You will be remembered as the man who, when 1992 ran its course and that year finished, the public debt was about $60 billion. By November 2005, 4 months before you left office, Mr. Percival, that 60 billion debt that you left us, that we started with in 1992, had swollen to 830 billion by November 2005. That's how we will remember you, Mr. Percival, as the debt Prime Minister. We'll also remember you, Mr. Percival, as the murder Prime Minister. Because it was on your watch that we hit murders 1,000 for the year for the first time and sustained it. 1992, 629 murders. 93, 654 murders. 94, 690. 95, 780. 96, 925. 97 for the first time ever. 1,000, 1,038 for good measure. 98, 953. 99, 849. 2,000, 887. 2001, 1,139. 2002, 1,045. 2003, 976. 2004, 1,471. And as a last lick, Mr. Percival, in 2005, your last full year, 1,674. So in the time you were at the wicket, Mr. Percival, 13,710 Jamaicans murdered in their own country. Private security exploded because everybody are grill up and try keep possession and limbs and lives safe. On your watch, the record will show more Jamaicans lost their lives to the gun and to murder on your watch than everybody else. That's how we will remember you. And so I say, Mr. Percival, I didn't even have to touch Finsack to prove that you have no moral authority to enter any argument about how this country is run. And in tandem with your former finance minister, the two of you together reminded me of Dick Dastardly and Motley from Wacky Racers. You did to this country what Phillips and Simpson Miller, Holness and Shaw, Holness and Clark, and now Holness and Favour Williams are trying to correct. I say to you, Mr. Percival, you talk about you missed the days when you would put on your gown and go to court. Put on your night gown and go to bed. And buy a kick over your chamber pot on the way.